Not yet. Perfect.
There's sand in this slough, and in others like it along the Apalachicola River. What does that mean for the river, and for Apalachicola Bay? We're heading up the East River with a team assembled by the Apalachicola Riverkeeper.
The East River is one of the first rivers that takes off out of the Apalachicola and runs out into the delta and feeds into East Bay. East Bay is the primary nursery area of Apalachicola Bay.
Hold that really quick.
They're taking what's known as a core sample.
So we're using a vibrocore and we're going down into the sediments where we're anticipating removing them, and we're characterizing that material.
And that puts us at 211 of sand, and it looks coarse, more mica, large flecks.
We're finding it's almost exclusively sand, very clean. But even that's sand.
As retired riverkeeper Dan Tonsmeyer explains, clean sand isn't naturally found in sloughs.
The backwater swamps, soil is typically very gushy and very soft mud, okay? And gushy, that's a technical term.
That gushy stuff is a vital source of nutrients for the river and bay. It's created within a vast network of wetlands in the Apalachicola floodplain.
Just the main channel of the Apalachicola is 106.5 miles. There's over 400 miles of those sloughs and distributaries. They come out of the river, run so far down the river floodplain, picking up the nutrients and the organic matter, bringing it back into the river.
And from there into Apalachicola Bay. The thing is, decades ago, the Army Corps of Engineers dredged the river to make it deeper for barge traffic. That pushed river sand into places where the floodplain connects with the river.
Over the years, the heads of these sloughs have been cut off from the main stem, and in low flows below the banks or the berms of the river, those flows are no longer getting through into the swamp or to the bay like they historically did in the past. And that caused those swamps to dry out. It's impacted the Tupelo tree and a lot of the other swamp species of trees. And up here, it's theoretically it has reduced the inflow of fresh water into the upper East Bay.
Ken and his team are working on opening up 3 sloughs, 2 in the upper river and then also the East River down here in the delta. The restored channels would let more water into the floodplain, but only if that water's available.
So the river will fluctuate on an annual basis. It's the same in the bay as it is in the floodplain. It likes to be wet and dry and wet and dry. When you fix it at a drought stage, it puts such an extreme stress on the system. What happened in the droughts of 2008 and 2012 is we had this flatline flow of like 5,000 CFS, which is not an unnatural flow, but for the duration it was unnatural, and that is what changes everything.
The Apalachicola Bay oyster fishery crashed during that drought of 2012, and it still hasn't recovered.
Orange with more of that muscovite.
Slough restoration is one of a handful of projects currently underway aimed at making the river and the bay as functional a watershed as possible. For WFSU, I'm Rob Diaz de Villegas.